Summary of Canto 3, Chapter 4. Vidura approaches Maitreya. With the Lord's permission, the Yadus then ate the remnants left by the Brahmanas, and also they drank liquor. They became very delirious and they used harsh words at each other because of the effect of liquor. Due to intoxication, their minds became unbalanced and they destroyed each other, just as bamboos by mutual friction creates fire and destroys the whole forest. How could the eternal associates of the Lord be vanquished in the Lord's presence? This is an action of the Lord's Maya. Witnessing this, Lord Krishna sipped water of the river Saraswati and sat down under a tree. Uddhava continued, Lord Krishna is the vanquisher of distress of surrendered souls. Previously in Dwaraka, he told me to go to Badrikashram. Actually, Krishna spoke to Uddhava for two reasons. He wanted to remove Uddhava's suffering of separation after the disappearance of the Lord and his family, and he told Uddhava to go to Badrikashram to relieve the pain of the sages there by speaking about bhakti, jnana, vairagya and the Lord's pastimes. When the purpose of Krishna's descent to remove the burden of the earth had been fulfilled, the demigods headed by Brahma came to Dwaraka to inform Lord Krishna that the time for his disappearance had arrived. Realizing the imminent departure of his beloved Lord, Uddhava approached Krishna and requested that he may also be allowed to go to the spiritual world along with Krishna. Then Krishna spoke to Uddhava the deepest philosophical section of the Bhagavatam, namely the Uddhava Gita, which is later discussed in Canto 11. And then he instructed Uddhava to go to Badrikashram. Uddhava continued. He said, Yet in spite of knowing his desire, being unable to bear separation from him, his lotus feet, I followed the Lord. Searching for my Lord, I saw him deeply thinking alone, taking shelter on the bank of the river Saraswati, though he himself is the shelter of the goddess of fortune. I saw his beautiful form with a glowing dark complexion, full of bliss and knowledge, peaceful reddish eyes. I could recognize him as the Supreme Lord by his 4 hands and yellow silken garments. Resting against a young banyan tree, Arbaka Ashwatham, with his right lotus foot on his left thigh, giving up his pastimes in this world, he appeared very blissful. At that time, Maitreya Rishi, who was a great friend of Vyasa, reached there out of his perfect accord. Maitreya was attached to Lord Krishna and listening to him submissively. With a smile and a particular glance upon me, having allowed me to rest, the Supreme Lord began to speak. Although both Uddhava and Maitreya were great souls, Krishna was more intimate and attentive towards Uddhava as he was a spotlessly pure devotee, while Maitreya at that time was a Jnana Bhakta, one whose devotion is mixed with monastic viewpoint. Lord Krishna spoke to Uddhava. He said, O Vasu, I know your heart's desire. Your heart's desire yearns for my association. You have worshipped me very nicely in sacrifice. I will award you that rare benediction which is very difficult for others. Uddhava is an eternal associate, Nitya Siddha of the Lord, and a plenary portion of Uddhava was one of the 8 Vasus who entered the Nitya Siddha Uddhava. Here, Uddhava is revealed as a Sadhana Siddha to protect the confidentiality of the pastimes. Also, the Lord is indicating to Maitreya the importance of association of the Lord. Lord Krishna continued, Your present life is the last, Uddhava. Now you can go to Vaikuntha. Your visit to me in this lonely place when I am about to disappear from the vision of the world is because of your pure devotional service, and it is a great boon for you. At the beginning of creation, I spoke unto Brahma about my transcendental glories, which the sages describe as the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Uddhava told Vidura, I was overwhelmed by the Lord's reciprocation. My words failed and tears were filled in my eyes and my hairs erupted. Wiping my tears with folded hands, I began to speak. Uddhava told the Lord, I prefer your service, not the four Purusharthas. Devotees who engage in your loving service have no difficulty in achieving anything, including liberation. But I am anxious only to serve your lotus feet. The intelligence of even the learned sages become disturbed by your activities. You are full of contradictions. You engage in fruitive work although you are free from all desires. You take birth although you are unborn. You flee in fear of enemies and take shelter in a fort although you are the controller of the invincible time. You enjoy as a householder life with many women although you enjoy in yourself. You called upon me for consultation as if bewildered, although you are never bewildered. This act of yours bewilders me. If you think I am competent, kindly explain the knowledge of yourself which you have spoken to Brahma. By that I will cross over this ocean of sorrow after your disappearance. Uddhava told Vidura, then I expressed my heartfelt desires, and the lotus-eyed Lord instructed me about his transcendental situation. I have studied the path of self-knowledge from the Lord, and after that I have come here very much aggrieved due to separation. How would Uddhava live in such a separation from the Lord? Actually, service mitigates separation. So, he said, I am now mad for the pleasure of seeing the Lord, and to mitigate this, I am now proceeding to Badrikashram for association as I have been instructed by the Lord. In Badrikashram, Naranarayan sages have been undergoing penance for the welfare of all, and I will go and join them. Vidura sought spiritual knowledge from Uddhava. So, after hearing about the annihilation of relatives, Uddhava pacified his overwhelming grief by dint of his transcendental knowledge. While the Mahabhagavat Uddhava was going away, Vidura questioned him in affectionate confidence. Vidura told Uddhava, because the servants of Vishnu wander in the interest of serving others, you kindly describe the self-knowledge with which you have been enlightened by the Lord. Although competent, Uddhava was not ready to accept the elder and respectable Vidura as his disciple, especially when the elderly Maitreya was nearby. And he was very careful about the offense of surpassing a greater personality. So, therefore, Uddhava told Vidura that you may actually take lessons from the great and learned sage Maitreya who is nearby. He was also directly instructed by the Lord in my presence. So, after discussing with Vidura about the Lord's qualities, Uddhava spent the night, which passed very quickly, just like a moment, on the bank of the river Yamuna, and then departed in the morning. Parikshit Maharaj said, why did Uddhava remain alone on this planet after the disappearance of the Lord and his associates? Shukadeva Goswami said, Lord Krishna desired to disappear from the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members in the plea of the sage's curse. Krishna does not give up his body like the ordinary conditioned souls. His body and his self are identical. He appears and disappears out of his own will and potency, and repeatedly this is confirmed by all the scriptures and all the acharyas. Lord Krishna thought to himself, Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be entrusted with this knowledge about me. Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way because he is never affected by Maya. Therefore, he may remain here to disseminate this specific knowledge about me. Uddhava followed the instructions of the Lord and reached Badrikashram and worshipped the Lord in trance. Vidura had heard from Uddhava about the Lord's appearance, activities and disappearance. The Lord's glorious activities increase the perseverance of the intelligent, and it is incomprehensible for the unintelligent who are like beasts. Understanding that he was remembered by Lord Krishna, actually at this time Uddhava began to cry loudly, overwhelmed by the ecstasy of love. Vidura reached the bank of the Ganges where the great sage Maitreya was situated. This completes the summary of Canto 3, Chapter 4. Vidura approaches Maitreya. Hare Krishna.